Helmand Province, Afghanistan 0347 hours. The radio crackled to life in the darkness. Bravo 6, this is Overwatch. SEAL team pinned down. Heavy contact. Where's the shooter? Static, then panic. I don't see muzzle flash, no thermal signature. Where the hell is he firing from? Another crack split the night. Not the familiar bark of an AK-47. Something else. Something distant and deliberate. 890 meters away, a Taliban fighter dropped like a puppet with cut strings. The SEALs pressed themselves against the compound wall, scanning, searching, finding nothing. Who's covering us? Unknown sniper, unknown position. One of the team leaders keyed his mic. Ghost protocol. A long pause, then a voice, soft, almost a whisper. Ghost 206, target down, moving to secondary position. The voice belonged to someone they'd never see. Someone who'd been in that canal for 3 hours. Someone the river had swallowed whole. The screen went black. Text appeared 72 hours earlier. Fort Carson, Colorado Joint Special Operations Command. The briefing room smelled like stale coffee and desperation. Rain Blackwood stood at attention, not because protocol demanded it, because her body didn't know what else to do. 28 years old, 5'7", lean muscle wrapped around a frame that looked too slight to carry the weight of what she'd done, what she'd seen, what she'd become. Her face bore the sharp angles of her Lakota grandfather. The pale eyes came from her Scottish grandmother, a study in contrasts, in histories that collided and created something new. She wore her dress uniform. Bronze stars gleamed on her chest. Most soldiers went an entire career without seeing combat. Rain had 3 combat deployments before her 26th birthday. But today wasn't about medals. General Marcus Hendricks stood at the front of the room. 62 years old, silver hair cut military short. The kind of man who'd seen every war since Panama and still believed in something beyond the killing. Staff Sergeant Blackwood, he said, not a question, an acknowledgement. Sir? At ease, he gestured to a chair. This isn't that kind of briefing. She sat, hands folded in her lap, waiting. Hendricks pulled up satellite imagery on the screen. A compound in the middle of nowhere. Mud walls, flat roofs, surrounded by a spider web of irrigation canals that caught the sunlight like veins of silver. Helmand Province, he said, 4 days ago, 32 American contractors were taken from a research facility called Pine Ridge Station. Civilian scientists, engineers, medical personnel. Rain studied the image. The compound sat in a depression, natural kill zone. Whoever designed the defenses knew their business. Taliban, she asked. Commander Khalid Rahman, former Afghan commando. We trained him at Fort Bragg in 2019. He knows our doctrine, our tactics, our playbook. Hendricks clicked to the next slide. Photos of bodies being loaded into helicopters. We sent in a SEAL team, 6-man element, fast insertion, night raid. He paused. All 6 KIA. Rahman knew they were coming. Had the landing zone pre-sighted, cut them down before they cleared the rotor wash. Rain's jaw tightened. 6 men, 6 families, 6 flag-draped coffins. We tried again, sent a different team, different approach. Ground insertion, 2 clicks out. Another click, more bodies. 2 KIA, 4 wounded. They never made it within 500 meters of the compound. He's good, Rain said quietly. He's better than good. He's us. Hendricks leaned against the table, which is why conventional assault isn't working. Rahman sees it coming, every angle, every approach. He looked at her directly now. We need unconventional. Rain knew what was coming. She'd known since they'd called her from Fort Benning, since they'd pulled her out of the classroom mid-lecture and put her on a C-130 heading west. The compound is surrounded by irrigation canals, Hendricks continued, fed by snowmelt from the Hindu Kush. 4 to 6 feet deep. Current is moderate. Temperature this time of year averages 62 degrees Fahrenheit. He pulled up thermal imagery, bodies clustered in one building. Hostages are being held in the northwest structure, lower level. All 32 confirmed alive as of this morning. Rahman released a video, demands $500 million in the release of 47 Taliban prisoners. Deadline is 96 hours from initial contact. Which means we have 20 hours left, Rain said. Correct. She studied the canals, the approach vectors, the distances involved. You want me in the water. I want you to do what no one else can do, what Rahman won't expect because it's clinically insane. Hendricks folded his arms. 5 hours submerged. Core body temperature dropped from 98 to 91 degrees. Severe hypothermia. muscle tremors, degraded fine motor control, all while maintaining sniper accuracy at ranges exceeding 400 meters. Rain said nothing. The math was simple. The execution was anything but. I've read your file, Hendricks continued. Syria, Operation Iron Thunder. 14 hours in the Euphrates, 7 confirmed kills. Longest shot 1,240 meters in waterlogged conditions. That was summer, Rain said. Water temperature was 78 degrees. I know. This is 62, maybe colder depending on overnight melt. I know. Survival time in water that cold is 3 to 6 hours, depending on body mass and thermal protection. I know all of it, Sergeant. Hendricks pulled up the final slide. A list of names. Rain's eyes scanned down. Scientists, engineers, medical doctors, 32 souls. Then she saw it. Third name from the bottom. Dr. Emma Calloway, age 44, biochemist. The room tilted. Colonel Calloway's daughter, Hendricks said softly. I know he mentored you. I know what he meant to you. I know he died 2 years ago. Rain's hands gripped the edge of the table. Knuckles white. Jackson Calloway, retired Army colonel. The man who'd taken a half-wild Lakota girl from a South Dakota reservation and turned her into something the enemy couldn't see coming, couldn't predict, couldn't stop. He'd taught her to read the wind by watching grass bend, to slow her heartbeat until it disappeared, to become water, formless, patient, inevitable. And now his daughter was kneeling in a basement in Helmand Province, waiting for a bullet or a rescue that might never come. I need an answer, Sergeant. Rain looked up. Her pale eyes were dry, hard as flint. When do I leave? Staging area. Bagram Airfield. The gear was laid out like surgical instruments. Remington MSR modular sniper rifle. Chambered in .338 Lapua Magnum. Effective range 1,500 meters in ideal conditions. These would not be ideal conditions. Match-loaded rounds, handcrafted for consistency. 300 grain bullets. Ballistic coefficient that could punch through wind and distance like a fist through paper. 5mm wetsuit. Thermal underlayers. Sealed seams. Every inch designed to trap body heat in water that wanted to steal it. Closed-circuit rebreather. No bubbles. No surface disturbance. Pure oxygen recycled through a CO2 scrubber. Silent. Invisible. Rain checked each piece. Muscle memory from 1,000 training iterations. You're actually going through with this. She turned. Master Sergeant Garrett Wakefield stood in the doorway, 52 years old, face carved from granite and bad decisions. Eyes that had seen too much and still looked for more. Stone, she said. He hated the nickname. Everyone knew it. Everyone used it anyway. General says you declined support, Wakefield said. I work alone. Not this time. He walked closer, limping, left leg stiff. I'm your overwatch, 1,600 meters. Thermal optics, predator feed. You're not going dark on this one. You're not cleared for combat operations. Rain nodded at his leg. Lung shrapnel. Medical board said 6 more months. Medical board can kiss my ass. Wakefield picked up the rebreather, turned it over in his hands. Calloway asked me to look after you. Before he died, made me promise. I don't need looking after. Everyone needs someone watching their six, even ghosts. Rain met his eyes, saw something there she recognized. Not pity, not doubt, responsibility. The weight of promises made to dead men. Fine, she said, but you follow my lead. I call the shots, literally. Wouldn't have it any other way. Wakefield set down the rebreather. Briefing in 10, support team wants to meet you. The briefing room was smaller this time. Fewer people, more secrets. Sergeant Ellis Drummond, Delta Force, 38 years old, quiet in intensity, the kind of operator who spoke 3 languages and could assemble a rifle blindfolded. Corporal Bridget Flynn, SEAL medic, 29, red hair pulled back in a regulation bun, hands that could start an IV in a sandstorm or put a bullet through an engine block at 300 yards. Ghost, Drummond said by way of greeting. Rain nodded. We'll be your lifeline, Flynn added. Medical support, emergency extraction if things go sideways. They won't, Rain said. Confidence, I like it. Flynn pulled up a tablet. Let's talk hypothermia. For the next 20 minutes, Flynn walked through the physiology of cold water immersion, core temperature stages, symptom progression, decision-making degradation. At 95 degrees, you'll start shivering, Flynn said. That's your body trying to generate heat. At 93, the shivering becomes violent. Muscle control starts to slip. At 91, you're in severe hypothermia, Fine motor skills are compromised. At 89, you're in critical territory. Consciousness becomes unreliable. How long before I hit 91, Rain asked. Flynn checked her notes. In 62-degree water with your body mass and thermal protection, 4 to 5 hours, give or take. And the mission window, 5 hours minimum, maybe 6 if you're waiting for the right shot. So I'll be operating in severe hypothermia. Yes. Rain absorbed this, cataloged it, filed it away in the part of her brain that turned fear into fuel. What is the protocol if I go below 89? Flynn didn't sugarcoat it. Emergency extraction, immediate rewarming, hospital evac, mission abort. Not an option. It's the only option if you want to live. Noted. Rain stood. Anything else? Wakefield pulled up satellite imagery. Real-time feed from a Predator drone circling 20,000 feet above the target. The compound looked different from this angle. More isolated, more vulnerable. 17 guards, Wakefield said. All Afghan commando trained. They rotate in 3-hour shifts. Most disciplined pattern we've seen from Taliban in 5 years. Rahman's influence, Rain said. Confirmed, he's running this like a military operation, not a kidnapping. Drummond highlighted the irrigation canals on the map. Your insertion point is here, 2 clicks north. Helicopter drop at 0200. You'll swim the canal system to here. He marked a position 450 meters from the main building. Natural debris pile, good concealment, clear line of sight to the compound. Wind, Rain asked. 6 to 8 miles per hour, variable direction. You'll need to adjust on the fly. She studied the approach, the water route, the hide site. All of it made sense on paper. Paper didn't account for cold that turned your blood to sludge, for tremors that turned precision into prayer. Questions, Wakefield asked. Rain looked at each of them. Drummond, Flynn, Wakefield, good people, competent, professional. None of them would be in that water, in that cold, in that dark. Just one, she said. If I don't make it out, who tells my nephew I'm not coming home? Silence fell like a hammer. Flynn spoke first. You'll tell him yourself. Rain didn't answer. Couldn't promise what she didn't know. She found a quiet corner of the base, away from the noise, the diesel generators, the helicopters spinning up for night missions. The phone in her hand felt heavy. Rain dialed, waited through 3 rings. Hello? Her mother's voice. Warm, weathered, carrying the cadence of the reservation, of wide skies and wind through grass. Mom. Rain, baby, where are you? Can't say. You know that. A soft laugh. I know, doesn't stop me asking. Rain closed her eyes, pictured home, the small house on the edge of the Lakota reservation, the river that ran behind it, the cottonwood trees her grandfather had planted. Is Tommy there? Rain asked. He's asleep, school night. Can you wake him, just for a minute? A pause. Her mother knew better than to ask questions when Rain's voice carried that particular edge. Hold on. Rustling, footsteps, a child's sleepy voice in the background. Aunt Rain. Hey, little warrior. Tommy was 8, all elbows and enthusiasm. He loved 2 things, fishing and questions. Are you coming home soon, he asked. Soon, Rain lied. You promised to teach me to shoot, like great-grandpa taught you. She remembered that promise, made it 6 months ago, before the last deployment, before the scars and the nightmares and the wait. I remember, she said. Great-grandpa's rifle is still in the case. Mom won't let me touch it. Good. That rifle isn't a toy. I know, I'm being responsible. He yawned. When you get back, will you teach me about the river? Rain felt something crack in her chest, small, painful. What about the river? Great-grandpa always said the river remembers. What does it remember? She looked out at the Afghan night, at mountains that held snow even in October, at valleys carved by water that had flowed before men learned to make war. Everything, she said quietly. The river remembers everything, every stone it moves, every life it touches, every secret it keeps. Does it remember you? Yes. Will it keep you safe? Rain swallowed hard. The river doesn't promise safety, Tommy. It promises truth, and sometimes truth is cold. He didn't understand. How could he? He was 8. I love you, Aunt Rain. I love you too, little warrior. Be good for your mom. I will. Come home soon. Soon, she said again. The line went dead. Rain sat in the darkness, holding the phone, feeling the weight of promises made to children who believed their heroes never died. 0200 hours, the MH-60. Black Hawk cut through the night like a blade. Rain sat in the cargo bay, gear strapped tight, rifle in a waterproof case, wetsuit sealed. Rebreather checked and rechecked. Across from her, Wakefield studied a tablet. Thermal feeds, satellite imagery, weather patterns. Temperature dropped, he said over the headset. Water's reading 59 now. Snow melts heavier than predicted. 3 degrees colder than briefed. That would accelerate hypothermia. Shorten her operational window. Noted, Rain said. You can still abort. Call it off. We'll find another way. There is no other way. You said it yourself. Rahman knows conventional tactics. This isn't conventional. This is suicide with extra steps. Rain looked at him. Really looked. Wakefield had been there when Calloway died. Heart attack, sudden, brutal. The old man had been teaching a class on fieldcraft when his heart just stopped. Rain had been deployed, missed the funeral. Came home to an empty classroom and a rifle in a case. Wakefield had delivered both, along with a letter. She'd never opened the letter. Couldn't. And opening it meant accepting that Calloway was gone, that the voice in her head during bad moments was just memory, not guidance. He'd tell you to walk away, Wakefield said. No, he'd tell me to be the river. What the hell does that mean? Rain smiled. Small, sad. It means I don't fight the current. I become it. The helicopter banked. The crew chief held up 2 fingers. 2 minutes. Rain stood, checked her gear one final time. The rifle case was waterproof. The rebreather was charged. The wetsuit was sealed. Everything was ready, except the part of her that still felt like that girl on the reservation. Learning to shoot bottles off fence posts, believing the world made sense. The helicopter descended, flared, hovered 6 feet above a narrow canal. 30 seconds, the crew chief shouted. Rain moved to the door. The night air was cold, 50 degrees. It would feel warm compared to what was coming. She looked back at Wakefield one more time. If I don't make it, you'll make it. If I don't, tell Tommy the river kept my secrets. Before Wakefield could respond, Rain stepped into nothing. The fall lasted half a second. The impact stole her breath. Cold punched through the wetsuit like a fist. 59 degrees, maybe colder. The kind of cold that reached bone deep and whispered lies about warmth and rest. Rain sank, let the weight of her gear pull her down, found the bottom with her feet, 4.5 feet deep, just enough to hide, not enough to drown, unless she wanted to. She activated the rebreather. Pure oxygen flooded her lungs. No bubbles, no sound, just the steady rhythm of controlled breathing. The helicopter thundered away, rotors fading into silence. Rain was alone. She checked her compass. North by northeast. The compound was 1,800 meters away. 90 minutes of crawling through ice water, of fighting current, of watching her core temperature drop degree by degree. She started moving, low, controlled, letting the current help when it could, fighting it when she had to. The canal was narrow, 3 feet wide, silted bottom. The water carried the smell of agriculture and ancient stone. Above her, stars burned in a sky so clear it hurt to look at. Rain kept her eyes down. On the compass, on the next meter, on the breathing that kept her alive. 30 minutes and her fingers started to tingle. First sign, core temperature dropping below 96. She kept moving. 60 minutes. The tingling became numbness. Her toes felt distant, disconnected. Core temperature, 94, still moving. 90 minutes. Violent shivering started. Her body trying to generate heat it couldn't make. Core temp 92, almost there. At the 2-hour mark, Rain reached her hide site. A pile of debris where a canal wall had collapsed. Mud, stones, dead vegetation. Perfect concealment. She settled in, positioned herself so only her eyes and rifle scope broke the surface. The compound was 450 meters away, close enough to smell the cook fires, to hear the guards talking in Pashto. Rain raised her scope, began counting. 1 guard, northwest tower, 2 guards, main gate, 3 more. Patrolling the perimeter, 17 total, just like the intel said. She marked their positions, their routes, the rhythm of their movement. Professional, disciplined, Rahman's training. Her core temperature was 91 degrees now. The medical threshold, severe hypothermia, fine motor control compromised. Rain's hands trembled on the rifle. Slight, but there. She took a slow breath. Let the cold become information instead of enemy. Cold is just another variable. Calloway's voice, a memory so real it might as well be a ghost. Adjust for it. Compensate. Become it. Rain settled deeper into the water, into the cold, into the waiting. Dawn was 3 hours away. Then the work would begin. Through her scope, she saw movement. The door to the main building opened. A man stepped out, tall, lean, moving with the confidence of someone who owned this ground. Commander Khalid Rahman. He stood in the courtyard, looked around, checked the perimeter. Then he did something that stopped Rain's heart. He looked directly at her hiding position, smiled, and walked back inside. Rain's finger hovered over the trigger. He knew. Somehow impossibly, Rahman knew she was there. The river kept flowing, indifferent, patient, and Rain settled in to wait for dawn, because some shots were worth freezing for. Some promises were worth keeping, even if they killed you. The darkness before dawn carried secrets. Rain had been submerged for 3 hours. The cold had moved past discomfort, past pain, into a state where her body simply reported information without emotion. Core temperature, 91.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Severe hypothermia. The textbooks called it the danger zone, the threshold where fine motor control degraded, where decision-making became unreliable. Rain called it operational parameters. Through the thermal scope, the compound glowed orange and yellow against the pre-dawn black. Heat signatures moved in predictable patterns. Guard rotations. 17 men total. She'd counted them twice, memorized their rhythms. The scope's reticle trembled, not from wind, not from water movement, from her hands. Rain flexed her fingers slowly beneath the surface. The motion sent electric tingles racing up her forearms, nerves protesting the extended cold exposure, begging for warmth that wouldn't come for 3 more hours, if she lasted that long. She adjusted position in the canal. The debris pile concealed her perfectly. Storm detritus, collapsed mud bricks, dead vegetation accumulated over years of seasonal flooding. To the guards 450 meters away, she was part of the landscape, another shadow in the pre-dawn gray. To the river, she was just another stone in the current. Wakefield's voice whispered through the bone conduction mic, crystal clear despite the distance. Ghost core temp estimate. Rain ran the calculation. 3 hours immersed. Water temperature 59 degrees. Her body mass versus thermal protection. The violent shivering that had started 20 minutes ago. 91.5, she whispered back. Still green. A pause on the line. She could hear him thinking, calculating risk versus mission parameters. Medical says another 90 minutes puts you at critical threshold, Wakefield said. Noted. Rain. He dropped the call sign, used her name. That meant it was personal. You can abort. Drummond and Flynn are positioned. We can find another approach. She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes stayed locked on the compound, on the northwest building where 32 people waited in a basement, alive, for now. One of those people was Emma Calloway. Negative, Rain said finally. I'm holding position. Through the scope movement, the main door opened. Heat spilled out into the cold morning air. A figure emerged, tall, lean, moving with the controlled economy of someone who'd spent decades in military service. Commander Khalid Rahman. Rain's finger moved to the trigger. Not pressure, just contact. Ready. Rahman walked into the courtyard, stopped, stood perfectly still. Then he did something that changed everything. He pulled out a phone, held it up, aimed it directly at her position, not generally toward the canal, directly at her hiding spot. Took a photo. Rain's breath caught. He knows. Rahman lowered the phone, turned, walked back inside without looking back. No smile, no theatrics, just quiet confirmation. The game had shifted. Did you copy that? Drummond's voice on the comm, tense, alert. Confirmed, Rain said. He photographed my position. How the hell did he acquire you? Good question. Rain had been motionless for 3 hours. No heat signature above the waterline. No movement. No sound. Unless he'd known before she ever entered the water. Unless this whole mission was designed to draw her here. Overwatch, pull up the hostage video, Rain said. The one Rahman sent to JSOC yesterday. Stand by. 20 seconds later. Playing now, what am I looking for? Watch his eyes, frame by frame. Wakefield went silent. Rain waited, counted her heartbeats, 40 per minute, training in hypothermia slowing everything down. Son of a bitch, Wakefield breathed. He's blinking in pattern, Morse code. What's he saying? TRAP. He's spelling trap, over and over. Rain processed this. Rahman had embedded a warning in his own propaganda video, trying to communicate something to whoever came for the hostages. But warning them about what there's more, Wakefield said. Predator feed shows thermal signatures in the northwest building. Lower level. Count as 32 bodies, clustered together. Hostages confirmed, Rain said. Affirmative. But there's something off about the heat patterns. Some signatures are brighter than others. Higher core temperatures. Sick, injured. Negative, these signatures are showing elevated temps consistent with physical exertion, like they've been moving, working. Rain frowned. Hostages in a basement shouldn't be exercising. They should be conserved, stationary, scared, unless they weren't really hostages. Keep monitoring, Rain said. Something's not adding up. The sky shifted from black to deep blue. Dawn was 40 minutes out. Around her, the water flowed. Patient, indifferent. It had carried rain from mountains for 10,000 years. It would carry rain for 10,000 more. She was just another passenger. At 0520 hours, the first guard change happened. 3 men emerged from the barracks. Checked weapons, moved to relieve the night watch. Professional, disciplined, no wasted movement. Rain catalog details. A K-47s, 1 PKM machine gun. And there the Dragunov sniper rifle. The man carrying it was young, mid-20s, but he moved like someone who'd grown up with iron in his hands. Comfortable, natural. Rain marked him as priority target. If shooting started, he'd be her first problem. She counted guards again, 17 total, but 3 were new, fresh from sleep, alert. The odds were getting worse. Her body temperature had dropped another half degree, 91 now. The shivering was constant. Violent muscle contractions trying to generate heat. It burned calories she couldn't replace. Exhausted reserves she'd need later. At 0530, the sun touched the horizon. Golden light spilled across the valley, painted the compound walls amber and shadow. The main door opened. Rahman emerged again. But this time he wasn't alone. He was with a woman. Rain recognized her immediately from the briefing photos. Dr. Emma Calloway, 44 years old, dark hair pulled back, wearing civilian clothes that showed 4 days of captivity. Rumpled, dirty, but she wasn't bound, wasn't being dragged. She walked beside Rahman, matching his pace, like they were colleagues heading to a meeting. Through the scope, Rain watched Rahman show Emma something on a tablet. Emma leaned in. Read. Her hand went to her mouth. She was crying, but she was also nodding. Whatever Rahman was showing her, it wasn't a threat. It was information. Something that made Emma weep and agree simultaneously. Ghost, I have visual on Calloway, Wakefield said. Behavior is inconsistent with captive-captor dynamics. I see it, Rain whispered. Emma looked up at Rahman, said something. Rahman responded. Then he touched her shoulder. Gentle, almost paternal, and led her back inside. Rain's mind raced through possibilities. Stockholm Syndrome, manipulation, coercion through kindness, or something else entirely. Something that didn't fit the narrative she'd been given. That wasn't a hostage, Drummond said flatly. That was a conversation between equals. Confirmed, Rain said. Her core temperature was 90.5 degrees, hands shaking worse now. But her mind was sharp, cutting through the cold, through the assumptions. Nothing about this mission was what it seemed. At 0545, the courtyard filled with movement. 6 guards, all armed, all moving with purpose toward the center of the compound. They formed a semicircle. Rahman emerged. With him, another man. White, mid-50s, gray hair, khaki pants, and a button-down shirt that had once been pressed. Now it was wrinkled, stained. The man's hands were bound behind his back. One of the guards forced him to his knees in the dirt. Another guard produced a video camera. Rain knew what came next. She'd seen it 100 times. Different countries, different languages. Same script, execution video, proof of intent, propaganda. Rahman stood behind the kneeling man, pulled a pistol from his belt, began speaking to the camera. Rain couldn't hear the words from 447 meters, but she could read the performance. Her crosshairs settled on Rahman's temple. Perfect shot, range calculated, wind accounted for, elevation adjusted, 1 squeeze. Mission over, hostages saved. But something stopped her. Calloway's voice. A memory so vivid it might as well be real. The hardest shot isn't the longest. It's the one where you hesitate. Hesitation means doubt. Doubt means death. She was doubting. Ghost, you have the shot, Wakefield said. Authorization granted. Take it. Rain's finger stayed on the trigger, but she didn't pull because the kneeling man was wrong. His posture was off, too controlled, too ready. Hostages were broken, terrified. This man was coiled, waiting. Negative, Rain whispered. What? Wait, 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 wait. The hostage, something's wrong with him. He's about to be executed. Rain watched closer, the man's shoulders, the way his weight distributed. Professional, tactical. He's not a hostage, Rain said. He's a plant. Rahman raised the pistol, pressed it against the man's head. Rain made a decision, shifted her aim 6 inches right, and fired. The suppressed rifle whispered, a soft crack that wouldn't carry beyond 100 meters. The bullet crossed 447 meters in zero point 0.8 seconds. Rahman's pistol exploded, metal fragments, the weapon destroyed in his hand. He jerked back, blood spraying from shredded fingers. The kneeling man moved, fast, fluid, not like a hostage, like an operator. He surged to his feet, hands no longer bound, the restraints had been prop cord, easily broken. Dove for the video camera, grabbed it, and Rain saw what she'd missed. The camera wasn't a camera, it was a detonator housing. The hostage was a suicide bomber. She fired again. Center mass, the man went down, but his hand was already on the trigger. The explosion was small, contained, just enough to destroy the satellite uplink equipment 30 meters away. Pre-positioned charges, calculated demolition, not meant to kill anyone, meant to cut communications. Chaos erupted, guards scattered, shouting, trying to locate the sniper, trying to understand what had just happened. Rahman stood in the center of it, clutching his bleeding hand, his face calm, almost satisfied. He'd tested her, pushed her to see if she'd take the obvious shot. She'd proven she wouldn't. Now the real game began. All units, Ghost is compromised. Wakefield's voice cut through the comm. Delta SEALs execute assault. I repeat, execute assault. 5 guards opened fire on Rain's position. A K-47 round stitched the canal. Water erupted in plumes, mud and vegetation exploded around her. Rain submerged completely. Let the current carry her downstream. The cold water that had been her concealment became her escape route. 20 meters, 30, 40. She surfaced behind an overturned irrigation pipe, rusted metal that would stop rifle rounds. Her core temperature was 89 degrees now. Critical hypothermia, the threshold where people died quietly, where the body gave up trying. But Rain wasn't done trying. She brought the rifle up, forced her trembling hands steady through pure will. Found a target, one of the guards scanning the canal with binoculars. Range 465 meters, harder shot, longer distance. She controlled her breathing, ignored the shaking. Let training override biology. Fired. The guard dropped, but Rain had missed her point of aim. She'd been targeting his head. The bullet struck his chest instead. Still a kill, but not the kill she'd intended. Her precision was degrading. The sound of rotors cut through the morning. Deep, powerful. The distinctive thunder of MH-60 Blackhawks, 2 of them, coming in fast and low. The assault element was 90 seconds out. Rain keyed her mic. Overwatch, this is Ghost. Compound has prepared defensive positions. Northwest Tower and rooftop have PKM emplacements. Advise assault lead to expect heavy resistance. Copy, Drummond said, relaying now. The Blackhawks flared over the compound, aggressive, professional. Delta operators fast-roped from the first bird. 8 men, hitting the ground in perfect sequence, fanning out, creating a perimeter. The second bird dropped SEALs on the opposite side. Another 8-man element. The guards were ready. PKM machine guns opened up. Belt-fed fury, tracers cutting through the golden dawn light. Rain saw a Delta operator go down. Legs shot out. He crawled for cover, dragging himself with his arms. She shifted aim, found the PKM gunner. Northwest Tower, 520 meters. Her hands were shaking badly. She braced the rifle against the irrigation pipe, used the metal to stabilize. Breath in, halfway out. Hold, squeeze. The rifle kicked. The bullet flew true. The PKM gunner slumped over his weapon, but another guard immediately took his place. Trained, prepared. They'd rehearsed this. Rain worked the bolt, ejected the spent casing, chambered a new round, fired again. This shot went wide, struck the concrete barrier behind the new gunner. Her accuracy was failing. The hypothermia was winning. On the ground, Delta and SEALs pushed forward, leapfrogging, covering each other, standard assault doctrine, but they were walking into a meat grinder. The guards had overlapping fields of fire, prepared positions. They knew this ground, had planned for this exact scenario. Rain saw another operator fall. This one didn't get back up. She found the shooter, A guard with an AK-47 firing from a second-story window, range 380 meters. Easier shot, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She fired. The guard dropped, but it had taken her 3 seconds to line up the shot. 3 seconds, an operator was exposed. Every shot was getting harder. Every target acquisition taking longer. Her body was shutting down, prioritizing survival over performance. Flynn's voice cut through the comm. Ghost, your vitals are critical. Core temp is sub 90. You need immediate extraction. Negative, Rain managed, still in the fight. You're hypothermic. You need medical intervention now. After the hostages are secure, the firefight intensified. Delta had reached the main building. Breaching charges blew the door. Operators poured inside. SEALs secured the perimeter, suppressing guard positions. Professional violence. Rain provided overwatch. Found targets. Fired. Missed more than she hit. At 6:10, Drummond's voice came through. Urgent. We have a problem. Hostage count is wrong. Explain, Wakefield said. We secured 29 hostages. We're missing 3, including Dr. Calloway. Rain forced her frozen jaw to work. Rahman escaped. There's a tunnel system. He took 3 hostages with him. The pieces fell into place. Rahman had never intended to hold all the hostages. He'd been planning his escape from the beginning. The execution video, the defensive positions, the prepared retreat, all of it designed to buy time. Where's the tunnel entrance? Rain asked. Northwest corner, half collapsed. Delta's preparing to breach. Rain tried to stand. Her legs wouldn't cooperate. Muscle control was gone. She collapsed back into the water. Pulled herself up using the irrigation pipe. Tried again. Made it to her feet. Barely. Swaying, vision tunneling. Ghost, you are not cleared for movement, Flynn said. Stay in position. We're coming to you. Emma's in those tunnels, Rain said. Delta will extract her. No, this is my mission. Rain stumbled forward, out of the canal onto dry ground for the first time in 4 hours. Her legs nearly gave out. She caught herself, kept moving. Wakefield appeared, running toward her position. He grabbed her before she fell. You can barely walk, he said. Then help me walk. He looked at her, saw something in her eyes, the debt to Calloway, the promise that couldn't be broken. Damn it, Rain. But he didn't let go. He half-carried her toward the compound. Flynn appeared with a thermal blanket, wrapped it around Rain's shoulders. Started an IV of warm saline as they moved. The fluid burned going into Rain's veins. But it worked, slowly. Feeling began returning to her extremities. Her core temperature rose. 89.5 degrees. Still critical, but stable. They reached the tunnel entrance. Delta operators were staged, ready to breach. The team leader, a captain named Marcus Blake, turned when Rain approached. You're the ghost, he said. Not a question. I'm going in, Rain said. You're hypothermic. You'll slow us down. Dr. Calloway is the daughter of the man who trained me. I'm going in. Blake studied her, saw the same thing Wakefield had seen, the debt that wouldn't be denied. Give her a weapon, he said. Drummond handed Rain a Glock 19. Checked the chamber, verified the magazine. 16 rounds, he said. 1 in the pipe, don't waste them. Rain took the pistol. It felt heavy, foreign, wrong. Snipers worked at distance. This was close quarters, brutal, intimate. But she'd adapt, or she'd die trying. From inside the tunnel, a voice crackled over an open radio frequency. Female, strained but clear. Please don't come for me. He's not what you think. There's something you need to know about. The transmission cut off. Emma's voice. Rain looked at Wakefield, at Flynn, at Drummond. I'm going, she said. Wakefield nodded slowly. Then I'm going with you. Your lung is my problem, not yours. He took a rifle from one of the Delta operators, checked it. You don't go into the dark alone, not this time. Blake made a decision. Delta goes first. Ghost and Wakefield provide rear security. We move in 2 minutes. Rain used those 2 minutes to let Flynn pump more warm saline into her veins, to force her hands to flex, to remind her body it wasn't allowed to quit yet. At 6:20, they entered the tunnel. The darkness swallowed them whole. Behind them, the compound was secured. 29 hostages safe. Guards neutralized or detained, but the mission wasn't over. 3 people were still in the dark. One of them was Emma Calloway, and Rain had made a promise to a dead man. Some promises were worth dying for. The tunnel sloped down, water ankle deep. The temperature dropped. 50 degrees, maybe colder. Rain's core temperature, which had climbed to 90, started falling again. But she kept moving, one foot in front of the other, Wakefield beside her, Delta ahead, into the earth, into the unknown. The river above them kept flowing, patient, eternal, waiting to see if Rain Blackwood would surface again, or if the dark would finally claim her. The tunnel swallowed light and hope in equal measure. Rain moved through darkness so complete it had texture. Weight, the kind of black that pressed against your eyes and made you question whether they were open or closed. One hand traced the stone wall, rough, wet, cold enough to leach heat through her glove. The other gripped the Glock. 16 rounds, 1 in the chamber, 15 in the magazine. Close quarters, point blank. Everything a sniper wasn't trained for. But training was just the foundation. Survival was improvisation. The tunnel floor held 3 inches of water, 50 degrees, maybe colder. It sucked at her boots with each step, stole warmth through leather and wool and whatever reserves her body still possessed. Core temperature, 87 degrees Fahrenheit. Critical hypothermia, the medical threshold where the body began making bargains it couldn't keep, where warmth became memory, where consciousness became negotiable. Rain's breath misted in the tunnel. Short gasps, the rebreather was gone. Left behind in the canal where she'd spent 4 hours becoming something other than human. Now she was just human again. Cold, scared, running on debt and stubbornness. Behind her, the tunnel entrance glowed faintly, morning light filtering through, growing dimmer with each meter. Each step taking her deeper into the earth, away from safety, toward whatever waited in the dark. Through the bone conduction mic, Wakefield's voice crackled, broken by interference, stone and earth scrambling the signal. Ghost, status, tunnel, delta, 3 minutes, Rain Keeter mic, barely copy, signal degraded, continuing alone. Negative, wait for, backup. The transmission dissolved into static, white noise, the sound of isolation. She was alone. The tunnel branched ahead, 2 passages, left and right. Rain stopped. Studied both options in the dim light from her position. Left tunnel level, dry stone. The tactical choice, high ground, better position. Right tunnel sloping down. Water deeper, standing puddles reflecting nothing. She chose right. Rahman was smart, had been trained by Americans, would anticipate the tactical decision, would prepare for it. So Rain went the other way, into the descent, into the deeper water, into the choice he wouldn't expect. The water rose to her knees. Then mid-thigh, ice burned through her thermal layers, through skin, through muscle, down to bone. Her core temperature dropped, 86.5 degrees. Then 86. The tunnel narrowed, walls pressing close, ceiling lowering. Claustrophobia was a luxury. Fear was information. Rain processed both, filed them away, kept moving. The passage opened suddenly into a chamber. Natural cave formation, maybe 12 feet across, ceiling 8 feet high, water pooled ankle deep across uneven stone. 2 guards stood at the far end, young, mid-20s, AK-47s slung across their chests. They were talking, quiet voices in Pashto, discussing something, arguing maybe. They turned when they heard her, surprise registered, then recognition, then training. Both reached for their weapons. Rain fired first. The Glock's report was thunder in the confined space. Muzzle flash lit the chamber like lightning. Shadows leaped across stone walls. First shot high and right, her hands shaking from hypothermia. The bullet sparked off stone above the first guard's head. Both guards opened fire. AK-47s on full automatic. Muzzle flashes strobing the darkness. Bullets ricocheted, whined, splashed water, sparked stone. Rain dove left, rolled, came up behind a natural pillar. Returned fire. 2 shots. Center mass, controlled pairs. The first guard went down, clutching his chest, weapon clattering on stone. The second guard adjusted, fired at her new position. Rounds chipped the pillar. Fragments stung her face. Rain leaned out, acquired target. Her hands trembled. She forced them steady through will alone. Fired. The guard dropped. Silence crashed back into the chamber, oppressive after the violence. Rain's ears rang, her heart hammered. She stayed behind the pillar, counted to 10, watched for movement. Nothing. She approached carefully. Weapon up. Ready. Both guards were dead. The first was maybe 22, the second younger, 19. 20. Someone's sons, someone's brothers. Boys who'd picked the wrong side or been born into the wrong war. The cost written in blood on stone. Rain checked her magazine. 13 rounds remaining. She moved to the chamber's exits, 3 passages leading deeper. One sloped up, one stayed level, one descended. A voice echoed from the descending tunnel. Male, accented English, calm as a professor lecturing. Staff Sergeant Blackwood, you are very persistent. Rahman. Rain raised the Glock, aimed at the passage, at shadows and echoes. Show yourself. Not yet. First answer a question in the courtyard. You had the shot. Perfect conditions. Perfect angle. Why did you hesitate? Rain moved toward the voice. Slowly. Weapon up. Each footfall deliberate. Because something was wrong. What was wrong? You wanted me to shoot. A soft laugh echoed through stone. Appreciation in it. Almost warmth. Colonel Calloway taught you to think. Not just aim. A pause. I have studied you, Staff Sergeant, for months. Your missions in Syria, Iraq, the way you disappear into water and emerge as death. You are a weapon, but whose weapon are you? I'm nobody's weapon. Everyone is someone's weapon. The question is whether you know it. Rain reached the passage entrance. The tunnel continued down. She could see light ahead, artificial, flickering. She moved toward it, weapon ready, heart steady despite the cold trying to stop it. The passage opened into a room, larger than the chamber. Old foundation. Stone walls predating the compound by decades, maybe centuries. A battery lantern sat on a makeshift table. Weak light, enough to see. Rahman stood against the far wall, hands visible, empty, no weapon drawn. Beside him, 3 people. Dr. Emma Calloway, dark hair matted, eyes red but alert. Watching Rain with an expression that wasn't relief. It was warning. Next to Emma, 2 others. A woman late 30s, short blonde hair. A man mid-40s, balding glasses. Both wearing civilian clothes marked with Pine Ridge Research logos. Dr. Sarah Brennan, James Wolfe. Rain recognized them from the briefing. You came, Emma said. Not relief, resignation. Rain kept the Glock trained on Rahman. All of you, step away from him. Now. Nobody moved. Rain, please. Emma's voice was steady, strong. Before you pull that trigger, you need to see something. Emma, move away from him. No, not until you understand what's really happening. On the table beside the lantern, a laptop. Screen open. Documents visible, even at this distance. Rahman gestured to it, almost gentle. Look, then decide. Rain's hands were shaking badly now. Hypothermia stealing fine motor control. The Glock felt heavy, foreign. I didn't come here for your propaganda. It's not propaganda. Rahman's voice was patient, calm. It's evidence of crimes committed by your government against its own people. Emma took a step forward, hands visible, non-threatening. Rain, my father didn't die of a heart attack. The words hit like a physical blow. What are you talking about? He was murdered, poisoned, made to look natural. Emma's voice cracked. He discovered what Pine Ridge was really doing. He was going to expose it. They killed him. Rain's vision narrowed, not from hypothermia, from the weight of what Emma was saying. That's impossible. Look at the documents, Emma said. Dad would want you to know the truth. Rain glanced at the laptop. Official letterhead, classified stamps, medical reports. She looked back at Rahman. Why should I believe anything you show me? Because I am already dead. The moment I took these hostages, my life ended. I am simply choosing how this story concludes. You killed 8 Americans. I killed 8 operators who came to murder 32 civilians. Rahman's voice hardened. The first SEAL team wasn't a rescue mission as staff sergeant. They were sent to eliminate witnesses. Rain's finger tightened on the trigger. You're insane. Dr. Brennan spoke, her voice quiet but steady. He's telling the truth. I was there when the SEALs breached. They weren't rescuing us. They opened fire on scientists. 4 of my colleagues died before Rahman stopped them. James Wolfe nodded. Shot execution style, headshots at close range. Rain felt reality shift. Everything she'd been told, everything she'd believed, all of it suddenly uncertain. Pine Ridge was developing bioweapons, Emma said, illegal under every international treaty, engineered viruses targeting specific genetic markers. They were going to kill them. She pointed at the laptop. We discovered it, reported through proper channels. Instead of an investigation, they sent a kill team. Rain's core temperature was 85 degrees, consciousness fragmenting. But her mind still processed, still connected dots. Calloway had been investigating something before he died. Military research contracts, irregularities. He'd been angry, distracted, asking questions. Then his heart stopped. Sudden, unexpected, no warning. But what if it wasn't his heart? Show me, Rain said. Emma brought the laptop over, slowly, carefully. Turned the screen toward Rain. Documents filled the display. Medical reports, autopsy findings, chemical analysis. Calloway's autopsy. Rain forced her eyes to focus through the hypothermic fog. Elevated potassium levels. Cardiac arrest. Cause of death, natural causes. But in the margins, handwritten notes, questions, inconsistencies, a secondary analysis, toxicology, traces of a synthetic compound, one that mimicked heart attack symptoms, undetectable unless you knew what to look for. Someone had known, had run the test, had documented it, then buried it. Your father found this, Emma said. Took him 6 months of investigation. He was going to release everything. They stopped him 3 days before he could. Rain's hands went numb. The Glock trembled. Calloway's face filled her vision. The old man who'd taught her everything. How to read wind, how to become water, how to seek truth even when it cut, especially when it cut. Why show me this, Rain asked Rahman. Because you're the only one who can carry it out. The only one they can't simply disappear. He gestured to the hostages. We're expendable. You're a legend. Ghost 206. If you speak, people listen. A sound echoed through the tunnels. Distant, mechanical, drilling. But wrong. Too far away. Wrong direction. Rahman heard it too. His expression changed. They're sealing the tunnels. What? Not Delta. Black operations. Someone who knows you've found the truth. An explosion shook the chamber. Dust cascaded from the ceiling. The lantern flickered, nearly went out. The tunnel Rain had entered through collapsed, stone and earth sealing the exit. They'll bury all of us, Rahman said. Collapse the system. Make it look like a cave-in during the assault. Rain keyed her mic. Overwatch, this is Ghost. Do you copy? Static. Delta. Anyone, respond. Nothing. The earth itself was blocking the signal. They were cut off. Emma's face went pale. We're trapped. Rain's mind raced despite the cold slowing her thoughts. Core temperature, 84 degrees. Critical. But training held. There was always a way out, always. Drainage, she said. Old tunnels like this, they need drainage. Where does the water go? Rahman pointed to a low opening. Half submerged, barely visible in the corner. There, connects to the river, maybe 50 meters. Can we fit if we're willing to risk drowning? Another explosion. Closer. The ceiling cracked. A chunk of stone fell, crashed into the water. Rain made her decision. You three, she pointed to Rahman, Brennan, and Wolf. Take the drainage pipe. Get to the river. Get somewhere safe. What about you and Emma? Wolf found. We'll find another way. Rahman studied her. Understanding dawned. You're letting me escape. I'm letting the truth escape. What happens to you after isn't my concern. Why? Rain looked at Emma, at Calloway's daughter, at the woman whose father had died seeking truth that got him killed. Because my mentor taught me something. The river doesn't fight rocks. It flows around them, finds its own path. Rahman nodded slowly, respect in his eyes. Colonel Calloway chose well when he chose you. He moved to the drainage opening. Brennan and Wolf followed. Before disappearing into the pipe, Rahman turned back. The documents are on a dead man's switch. If I don't cancel it within 24 hours, everything uploads. WikiLeaks, New York Times, Washington Post, BBC, everyone. Good, Rain said. Rahman smiled. Small, sad. Perhaps we'll meet again, Ghost. I hope we don't. He vanished into the pipe. Brennan and Wolf followed. The sound of splashing faded into darkness. Rain and Emma were alone. Another explosion. The chamber shook. More cracks spider-webbed across the ceiling. The other tunnel, Rain said. The one that slopes up. Move. Now. They ran. Rain's legs barely responded. Emma had to support her, half carrying her through the darkness. The tunnel rose. Water became shallow. Then just damp stone. Then dry. Behind them, the chamber collapsed. A roar of falling earth that chased them up the passage. They kept moving. The tunnel curved. Rose steeper. Rain smelled fresh air. Saw light. Delta had breached from above, cutting through from a different angle. Voices echoed. American. Professional. Sound off, anyone down there? Here, Emma shouted. 2 survivors. Here. Hands reached down through the breach. Grabbed them. Pulled them up into daylight. Rain collapsed on hard ground. Compound courtyard. Morning sun blinding after the dark. Her vision grayed at the edges. Body temperature, 83 degrees. Critical. Life-threatening. Minutes from complete system failure. Flynn appeared, already moving, cutting away wet clothes, wrapping thermal blankets, starting IV lines with practiced efficiency. Core temp is 83. She's critical. I need medevac now. Flynn's voice. Urgent but controlled. Wakefield's face appeared above Rain. Concern etched deep. You found her. 3 hostages. Rain managed, voice barely above a whisper. Rahman escaped. 2 with him. Where river drainage. Let him go. Wakefield's eyes narrowed. He understood, nodded once, asked no more questions. Medevac inbound, 2 minutes. Someone else. Drummond, maybe. Rain's consciousness flickered. The world reduced to sensations. Sounds, helicopter rotors, growing louder. Pulse thready, respirations shallow. Push warm saline, another liter. Core temp still 83, not rising. Then darkness took on her. Not death, just the body's final defense. Shutting down everything non-essential, preserving the core, hoping for rescue. Rain dreamed, Montana rivers in summer, water warm enough to stand in for hours. Her grandfather teaching her to read currents, to become patient. Calloway's voice, real as if he stood beside her. The river doesn't fight, child. It flows around under through. Be the river. Always. She'd been the river. And the river had taken its price. 17 days passed before Rain fully understood what she'd lost. Landstuhl Regional Medical Center, Germany. The largest American military hospital outside the United States. Rain lay in a bed, IVs in both arms, monitors tracking every function. Nurses checking vitals every 30 minutes. Her core temperature had stabilized. 98.6 degrees. Normal. Human. But her left foot told a different story. 3 toes were gone. Amputated at the second joint. Frostbite had killed the tissue in those tunnels. In that water, dead flesh that would have killed her if left attached. The surgeon had been direct. We had to take them. The alternative was losing the foot. Or your life. Rain had nodded. Understood. What choice was there? Now she lived with the absence. Phantom pain from digits that no longer existed. Balance issues, a permanent limp, small prices for truth. She told herself that, tried to believe it. On day 17, 3 visitors came. Wakefield arrived first, brought flowers, white roses, set them on the bedside table without comment. How's the pain, he asked. Manageable. Liar, she smiled despite herself. How's your lung? Still there, still functioning, still hurting. He sat in the chair beside her bed. We match now, both pieces missing. Lucky us. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind between people who'd shared darkness and survived. Then Wakefield pulled out a tablet. You need to see this. He showed her news headlines. Major outlets, international coverage. Pentagon bioweapons scandal exposed illegal research program at Pine Ridge facility. 12 senior officials indicted, whistleblower documents reveal systematic corruption. Rain read, absorbed, understood. Rahman had done it. The dead man's switch had triggered. Everything released. The truth flowing like water around every attempt to contain it. Emma's in witness protection, Wakefield said, cooperating with investigators. Her testimony is crucial for prosecution. Rahman Wakefield's expression hardened. Official status killed in tunnel collapse during rescue operations. Unofficial status unknown. There have been sightings, unconfirmed. Iraq, Syria, Somalia. Nothing concrete. Rain nodded. The river had carried him beyond reach. The mission, she asked? Official record. 31 hostages rescued. Rahman eliminated. 1 Delta KIA during the operation. Sergeant Marcus Thorne, you're being recommended for the Distinguished Service Cross. I'll decline. Already told them you would. And the truth about the SEAL teams. Wakefield's face went grim. Official story, both SEAL teams were ambushed by superior Taliban forces. Heroes who died attempting rescue. But we know different. We know different. But proving it, he shook his head. Rahman's evidence proves Pine Ridge was illegal. Proves the bioweapon program. But it doesn't explicitly prove the kill order. The operators who carried it out. Some are dead, others disappeared into the black ops world. Untouchable. Rain closed her eyes. Partial justice. Better than none. Worse than everything. Final casualty count. Wakefield consulted his tablet. 6 SEALs first assault, 2 SEALs second assault, 1 Delta operator during your overwatch, Sergeant Marcus Thorne, 41 wife and 2 daughters. 17 Taliban fighters, 31 hostages recovered safely. 2 hostages released by Rahman as promised. Rahman's official status, deceased. 9 Americans dead for a mission that started as rescue and became something else entirely. Thorne's family, Rain asked. Notified, full military honors, flag, 21-gun salute. He died a hero. Did he, Rain thought? Did any of them? Or did they all die serving a lie wrapped in a flag? The door opened. Flynn entered, then Drummond. The gang's all here, Flynn said. Smile small but genuine. She carried a box. Brought you something. Inside the box, a challenge coin. Not official, custom made. On one side, a river, flowing water, peaceful. On the other, Ghost 206. And underneath, for those who become water. From all of us, Drummond said quietly. Delta, SEALs, everyone who was there. Rain turned it over in her hand, felt the weight. Thank you. You saved our asses more than once, Flynn said. Least we could do. They stayed for an hour, talking, sharing stories, building the kind of bond that only forms in dark places. Before they left Wakefield, had one more thing. A package, no return address. Postmarked Jordan. Inside another challenge coin. Heavier, more ornate. On one side a river in Arabic calligraphy. On the other, English and Arabic text. The river remembers everything. Rahman's calling card. Acknowledgement. Respect. Between enemies who'd found something more complicated than hate. He's alive, Rain said. Officially, no, Wakefield replied. Unofficially, probably. Should we? No, let it go, let him go. He gave us truth, that's enough. Rain put both coins in her hand, felt their weight, their meaning. 2 sides of the same war, both seeking truth, both paying prices. 8 weeks later, Rain stood in front of a classroom at Fort Benning. 24 students, all qualified infantry, all hoping to become snipers. She walked with a visible limp now. The missing toes changed everything. Balance, gait, movement, physical therapy helped. But some changes were permanent. Sniper fundamentals, she began. Windage, elevation, range estimation, all crucial. But there's something more important. She paused, looked at the young faces, eager, believing skill was everything. The hardest variable isn't wind, isn't distance, isn't even the target. She tapped her chest. It's this, your decision, your hesitation, your certainty that you're right. One student raised his hand. What if we're sure? What if the shot is clear? Rain thought about Rahman, about Callaway, about 3 toes in a German medical waste bin. Being sure and being right aren't the same thing. Sometimes the hardest shot is the one you don't take. Sometimes not pulling the trigger takes more courage than pulling it. After class, she returned to her office, small, Spartan, a desk, a chair, a window overlooking the range. On the desk, 2 challenge coins, one from her team, one from Rahman. She put them in a drawer, next to the unopened citation for the Distinguished Service Cross, next to a letter from Emma thanking her for everything. Then she drove home, 6 hours north, through Georgia, through Tennessee, through Kentucky and Illinois, into South Dakota, back to the Lakota Reservation, back to her mother's house, back to the river that ran behind it. Tommy was waiting, 8 years old, all energy and questions and hope. Aunt Rain, you're finally home. She hugged him, felt him squeeze back, felt anchored for the first time in months. Can we go shooting now? You promised. Let me change first. 30 minutes later, they stood by the river, Callaway's old rifle between them. Tommy held it like it was sacred, which maybe it was. Great-grandpa shot with this. He did, and his grandfather before him, and now you. Will I be as good as you? Rain looked at the boy, saw innocence, hope, the belief that skill was righteousness, that hitting targets was enough. She wished she could preserve that innocence, knew she couldn't. Being good isn't the goal, she said. Being responsible is. What's the difference? Good means you can hit what you aim at. Responsible means knowing whether you should aim at all. Tommy thought about this, serious beyond his years. Great-grandpa said the river remembers everything. He did. What does it remember about you? Rain looked at the water, flowing past, constant, eternal, carrying secrets downstream where they dissolve into the ocean. It remembered everything. The cold, the darkness, the choice to let Rahman escape, the 3 toes, the 9 flag-draped coffins, the truth that had finally surfaced but would never be whole. It remembers that I tried, she said quietly. That's all anyone can do. Try to do right, even when right isn't clear. She taught him to hold the rifle, to breathe, to squeeze gently. His first shot missed by 3 feet. I'm sorry, he said. Don't be. You'll improve. It takes time. I'm still learning. How long did it take you? Rain thought about Montana, about Callaway, about years of training that led to a canal in Afghanistan and a choice between duty and truth. I'm still learning, she said again. They stayed until sunset, until the light turned the water to gold, until the sky burned orange and purple, and finally black. That night after dinner, after Tommy was asleep, Rain sat on the porch with her mother. You're different, her mother said. Not an accusation, an observation. I lost some pieces. Not just toes. Rain smiled. Said, no, not just toes. Her mother took her hand, held it. Your grandfather used to say the river takes pieces of everyone who enters it, but it gives something back, too. What does it give back? A truth, whether you want it or not. Rain looked out at the darkness. At the river she couldn't see but could hear, always flowing, always patient. Sometimes truth costs more than you want to pay. Always, her mother corrected, but you pay anyway, because that's what warriors do. Rain's phone buzzed. A text from Wakefield, new development. Inspector General opening investigation into SEAL operations. They want your statement. No pressure. Your choice, She stared at the message. At the choice it represented. She could stay silent. Let the partial truth be enough. Live quietly. Teach. Heal. Or she could speak. Testify. Rip open wounds. Risk everything again. The river flowed in the darkness. Rain typed back. I'll testify. Send me the details. Because some debts didn't end with mission completion. Some promises extended beyond the grave. And some truths once known demanded to be told, even when telling them cost everything. She put the phone down, closed her eyes, listened to the water. Somewhere in the Middle East, Rahman was building networks, training fighters, staying ahead of hunters. Somewhere in Washington, senators postured. Bureaucrats scrambled. Justice moved glacially. Somewhere in witness protection, Emma rebuilt her life, honored her father's memory. And here by a river in South Dakota, Rain, Blackwood prepared to speak truth to power. Again, the circle turned, generation to generation, truth to truth, cost to cost. That night she slept without nightmares, because sometimes paying the price was enough. Sometimes being the river meant carrying truth downstream, no matter what it cost. And sometimes the hardest shot was the one that came after, when you had to live with what you'd done and keep moving forward. The river flowed, eternal, indifferent, true.